And we are live. Episode 2. I don't know if I named the first episode. I mean, we were talking about solo travel, kind of the theme of the channel and what that is. So I think we'll call this episode of 2 of Geo Goes Solo. So welcome back. Today we're going to talk about ramen. I posted a video about Ichiran, one of the joints that I went to in Japan, one of the famous places. I mean, there were always lines at these ramen joints. Even as far as like Osaka, when I was there was a line going like down the street. It was kind of insanity, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of folks, especially locals, that will kind of poo-poo Ichiran. There was a comment or two on the video that said like, there's so many more places to eat ramen than Ichiran. And I know, but look, if you have a friend that comes to America, are you going to tell them to just avoid like McDonald's? Like, don't ever go there. No, you have to go experience some of those things that are considered, maybe let's call them like touristy or whatever. But honestly, I don't think the quality of Ichiran was that bad. And we'll go over that. I'll show you some of the other like ramens that I tried. I have some other photos that I didn't end up posting, but let's look at this video real quick.
So I got a chance to try
Shameless
this
plug
famous
for the
ramen chain
YouTube
called
YouTube video.
Ichiran. You get this tiny little booth, and you're not supposed to talk in here.
It is
it's
tiny,
supposed to be
solo
quiet,
booth.
which is why I
Everyone eats by themselves.
kept
You can
the audio
eat like
off,
next
and
to
I'm
your
just going
friend
to
or whatever.
kind of narrate for you, but
you can eat next to your friend or whatever, but you really are just kind of by yourself. There's each individual booth. I think you can see it later.
that
in this
little
video.
window opens up, and they serve you this amazing ramen. I ordered some extra sides with the soft-boiled egg.
See behind me there, you can see everyone
This is
kind
me
of
saying how
sits
excited I am to eat this ramen. You can
solo,
see
which is sort of the
all the other
unique thing
booths
about it.
behind me there, and get ready to slurp it, baby.
Yeah, the noodles were
you can
good.
pick all the different flavors for your broth. If you want it rich, if you want more noodles, if you want your noodles soft. It was so great. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was great, and it was inexpensive, relatively inexpensive. Adding a couple sides there and everything, I think I was still like under like $10 US. And you know, I mean, sure, some of that has to do with the exchange rate and what that looks like right now and how that's going. But I mean, for what it is, you have to go check it out. And yeah, it's super easy to jump in line. Now, all of the ramen joints, I was looking for a photo of this, and for some reason I don't have a picture of this, but the majority of the ramen places that you'll go to have a machine there that you order from. And it can be a little bit intimidating because the majority of them that I ran into were in Japanese. Now, the one at Ichiran was electronic, and you could touch the screen and say, hey, you know, I want English as my language, and then search through there. But some of the smaller joints that I went to, you know, we're talking about just this giant yellow machine with like, you know, a ton of buttons. And the instructions are not, I mean, they're in I was going to say Spanish. They're in Japanese. If they were in Spanish, that would be kind of crazy and sort of amazing. But they're in Japanese too. So most likely what you need to do is like snap a picture of it, get the Google Translate app or Papago, whatever you're using, and translate that over so that you can, you know, see what the different choices are. Now, again, this is kind of a little bit of an intimidating thing because sometimes it will just say special ramen and you're supposed to know what that is. So you might do a little research on the place beforehand. I'm going to show you some photos of some of the places I went to that were really great. I don't think I took a photo of one of the spots I went to that was actually terrible. And it just goes to show that you can't trust all of these like Google reviews and things like that, because this place was, I mean, it was gross, to be honest with you. I didn't even finish it. I didn't even finish the ramen. I left the chicken there. So I should preface that by saying this was a halal ramen joint, which, you know, you're not eating pork. So a majority of the ramen is made with the pork broth. So, you know, if you are halal and you're trying to maintain that strict diet, there are a few places that cater to that. So this place was like a chicken-based broth, but in honesty, it wasn't that great. I mean, I didn't find it. There's no way there was a 4.9 for me or whatever people were saying on there. So check this out. So here's a place. Now take a look at this ramen and take a wild guess where in Japan I had this ramen. So I was in Tokyo, I stayed in Shinjuku, Shibuya, I went to Osaka for a while, I was in Kyoto. Where in the world did we try this ramen? This is not from Japan. This is from Seattle, actually. This is from Ballard. That was a trick question. And if you're keeping score at home, you are losing. You have 0 points because that was anywhere near Japan. In fact, it's probably as far away as you can get, 12, 14 hours. So this place, this was the best ramen that I had in Japan. This was at this super small joint. And the cool thing about it was around 1 or 2 p.m. So they had this lunch special going for 1,000 yen. And you got this amazing bowl of tonkatsu ramen with the pork belly, chashu pork. But the other thing you got with this, and let me show you the video too, so you can get a little bit of this. Look how oily it is. Oh man, it's making my mouth water. But you got all of it. You got the rice, and they made this gyoza in-house. So it's like this fresh made gyoza, which I'm a fan of, but normally is kind of chewy. So the wonton or the skin that they wrap it in is usually a little bit thicker, but this place, it was really, really thin. And oh man, I mean, they went down so well with this. And like I said, this whole set was 1,000 yen, which at that time, it's just a month or two ago, is like $7. $7 for, just an absolutely phenomenal ramen. And like most joints in Japan, especially for ramen, they had a bunch of tables that were made for one person, right? So sort of like a booth, sitting at sort of a bar kind of situation. And that made, as a solo traveler, that's something that you'll run into. I talked about it in the last video where, being in like Korea, there's a lot of restaurants and there's a lot of dishes that are just made to share. So, it's kind of cool that there's spots like this that allow you to, as a solo traveler, hop in there and check it out by yourself. So let's guess the ramen again. Where in the world? I'll give you a hint there. Maybe it's not in Japan. Where in the world did George have this ramen? Delicious chasu ramen. This place is also a sake house, which was awesome. So they have these really cool flights of sake that you can try. And if you look down at the bottom here, you can kind of get a hint. There's like some English down there. Yeah, this is actually in San Diego. This is at Bishok Ramen in San Diego. And you know what? Solid, absolutely solid, great ramen in my opinion. And a bunch of different choices, right? So the shoyu type, like the black garlic. I think I just went with straight tonkatsu here. The chashu pork was, maybe not the best. That's where they could probably improve. But all in all, I would say like overall, like an amazing bowl of ramen. So, I don't think it's not the exclusivity of Japan to get good ramen. You can find it in a lot of places. I've had some amazing ramen in like LA. Oh man, I mean, get out of town. They've got some good spots there too. And even in Seattle, there's a couple of joints that came from overseas, and those places were amazing as well. But as far as value and as far as, if we take a look at this other one here, where in the world is George eating ramen? This is in Golden Guy, actually. This little joint, and this is a garlic ramen that they are supposed to be famous for. I cruised in here at like, I want to say it was like 11:30, like on a Thursday or something. And there was nobody in here. And this place was phenomenal. Just one guy back there, running the whole thing. in this tiny little bar. And again, they had the machine, so you go up there, and if you're confused, just ask somebody there. Most people are more than happy to help you, especially if they're not too busy, or even if people are behind you waiting. Like I remember there was a couple of gals when I went to that halal place. Two gals in front of me that were speaking English to each other, and they're like, they didn't know how to order at the machine. So I kind of let them just do their own thing, because unless they ask for help, I'm not going to go and bother them. But eventually I'm hungry. So I'm like, you guys need to hurry the F up here, because, do you have cash? They're pushing the button. They don't know the thing. And I'm like, okay, you have to put cash in first. They only take cash here. And then you pick what you want. Then like, oh, and so now they're searching for cash. And then one person has cash. And then she's like, I don't have enough cash. And I'm like, and then now there's a line forming behind me too. And I'm like, okay, you guys need to step out of the way and just figure your shit out, and then let the rest of us order. But anyway, so what happens at the machine, I didn't mention that, is it will print out, it prints out a couple of receipts that shows like everything that you ordered. And then you take those receipts to the bar or to the chef, and you hand those to them. And then, they'll make your order, whatever you printed out there. And that sometimes will include drinks. So you can order your drinks at that machine as well. It's an efficient way of doing things, I think, because one of the most frustrating things for me when I sit down into a restaurant, particularly in America, especially after COVID, is that getting someone to just say hello, I'll be right with you. Usually the host or somebody will sit you down, and then that's one of the most frustrating things to me. If you're super busy as a server, you can just tell me you're busy, and I am completely empathetic to that. But I need somebody to acknowledge the fact that like I'm sitting there, right? There is no more frustrating feeling to me than just be sitting there and just you watch server after server walk by, and you're like, who's my server? Do any of these people? All I need from you is just like, I'll be right with you. Like, boom, I see you. And then, your tip is going to go through the roof, because I take care of those people that serve me, because in America, especially, they don't get paid nearly enough, but that's a whole nother video. So in Japan, if you didn't know, there is no tipping. Do not tip. They may even get insulted by it, but they will definitely grab that money and chase after you and run you down and say, hey, you forgot your money. You forgot your money. And then you're going to feel embarrassed because you're making a scene. In Japan, you don't want to be making a scene. You want to be just blending in. That's what everybody does. Just be quiet. Be quiet on the subway. Be quiet everywhere you are. Maybe one of my most favorite things about Japan is that people are just quiet. You can ride in the train in silence. You can just relax. People don't try to come up to you and make small talk with you. So definitely one of my favorite things about Japan. But let's look at some more ramen. Here's some ramen. Again, let's guess where. Guess where George is eating this ramen. That, my friends, is in Hongdae in Korea, South Korea to be specific. Not that, I think you can visit North Korea, but I think most people go to South Korea, especially as Americans. But absolutely phenomenal bowl of ramen in South Korea. And I popped in there for lunch. Again, it was like on a Tuesday or something. There was hardly anybody in there. I think I shot a couple more videos of them preparing it, because it was just these three guys in there sort of by themselves. And what was wild was that they had the ramen ordering machine there. So they had the guy, and the guy would just stand next to the machine and say, oh yeah, just order right here, and then help you and point out kind of what was what. And, like I explained that situation earlier where in Japan, take a picture of it. There, I just asked the guy because he spoke some English, and I was like, what's the special? I usually just try to get like whatever the specialty of the house is. So that's what I ordered there. That place was great. I went back and ate there again. And the story of this ramen. Let me get into this. Let me take a sip of water, and then we'll get back into the story of how I finally found this ramen place in Osaka. So I was my second to last night in Osaka. So there was a crazy thunderstorm. I think I showed a video, or I put up a short of that as well. There was a wild rainstorm in Osaka on one of the nights. So people will still go out, but there's not as many people on the streets, like wandering around like would normally happen on, just say like a regular rainy evening. So second to last night, I go, there's a small bar across the street, kind of a divey place. Oh, I should have pulled up that picture. They had this sign that said, get drunk for 500 yen. And then it showed a bunch of pictures, and you got 3 drinks for 500 yen, which was kind of a funny way to advertise. But look, man, one of the things I liked about Japan was that their drinking culture there is unapologetic. They're just like, hey, you want to get drunk? Come here for 500 yen. So I went in there, and it's, of course, a little bit misleading, right? It's not really, I mean, it's shit drinks if you want to drink those. So I just got like a regular Suntory highball for 500 yen. And then while I'm sitting there, the police roll up behind me, and I think there's like 4 of them. And so I'm sitting here, and then there's a guy next to me here. I'm at the very end of the bar. And then there's a guy next to me here, and then there's 2 more guys. So it's a pretty small place. You could maybe fit 1 more person at this bar. But the police start talking to the guy next to me, and I'm just sweating a little bit. Why? I don't know. I didn't do anything wrong, but you're in a foreign country, and there's police hanging around. Don't speak the language really. So I don't know what they're saying to him, but he's kind of resisting or just being like a little bit exasperated by what they're asking him. So they eventually grab him out of the way there, and they pull him off to the side, and they sit him at this table, and they interrogate this guy for, I swear it was like 10 minutes. But what was kind of funny about it was I just started writing like funny comments into my Google Translate and showing the 2 guys next to me, like, yeah, I got a friend like this too. It's like, because I thought they knew that guy. I eventually found out later, after talking to them for a bit, they didn't know that guy at all. And they were just as kind of surprised and a little bit nervous as I was. But the guy sitting next to me, Uteg, we became friends, and he was like, hey, I want to take you drinking. And I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. He's like, I know some bars nearby that have a lot of English speakers, so it'd be good for you to meet some people there. So we walk down over there to this other spot, and sure enough, I meet this guy who again works in IT, which is kind of wild. It's a small world, but he's lived in Osaka for like 5 years, and he's like, dude, do you want the best ramen? I was like, yeah, of course. So he Google Maps it. Excuse me. He shows me the spot, and it's like 20 minutes on the subway north of Osaka. So my last day is the next day. And by the way, I had a couple more drinks with both of those guys. Absolutely phenomenal. I think I posted a picture of them at some point, on my stories. But we were talking about loneliness in the last episode. Yeah, just go sit down, make some small talk, make some jokes, and then you'll run into some folks that are willing to talk to you, especially when you're a foreigner, because you stick out, whether you think you're trying to blend in or not. Everybody knew that I was not Japanese. That did not need to be explained. The fact that I'm 6 foot tall and everything else, but. So the next day, he tells me, he goes, hey man, this place is like super tiny. There's just one guy that does this, one old man. He goes, it doesn't have a lot of ratings because like nobody knows. But he goes, I love ramen. He actually told me, he goes, I had to quit ramen for the last 90 days because I gained like 30 pounds from eating ramen. And I was like, all right, man. I mean, I don't know you at all, but I'll motor up there. So I go up there, and I have some photos and some videos of this too. And I get there. It opens at 11. So I'm thinking like, well, I don't want to get there like right when it opens, right? I'll go there at 11:30. And I get there and it's already full. So it's just a small bar of like maybe 6 seats. It's already full and I'm waiting outside and I'm looking at the sign and the sign says closed. And I'm like, well, that must be wrong. They must have just opened a few minutes ago. And then, now they forgot to flip the sign, whatever. No, she comes out and she goes, sorry. She gives me this is a sign or like a sign language that I learned overseas, which is like, no, like this is don't do that. Don't go this way or closed. So yeah, she's like, yeah, we're sorry, we're closed. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So they sold out of ramen already. They don't take reservations. So I don't know. I mean, the guy that told me to go there said, they sell out fast. They only make a certain amount every day. So I don't know if they sold that many in half an hour or if it was the gaijin is not getting any of this ramen, but they said, nah, keep it moving. So it's 11:30 now and I'm getting hungry. I skipped breakfast. Maybe had a couple of 7-Eleven Americanos. We'll have a whole video on the kombi in Japan or in Asia in general and just the absolute gold mine that is those spots. I'm a coffee snob, okay? I don't drink crappy coffee, and I was hitting up 7-Eleven. I was craving 7-Eleven coffee, and I miss it to this day, I'm telling you. And it was like $1. It was like 200 yen or something. Made fresh every single time because they had these machines. But we'll talk about that more another time. So the first spot I visited, completely sold out. So now I'm just resorting to Google Maps because I'm in like a north of Osaka. I don't even know what neighborhood and I don't know where anything is. So I just start searching ramen, right? And then I see another one. It's like a 10-minute walk. I'm like, okay, I walk over there, closed. So this is on a Monday. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this is true, but in my experience there in like 5 weeks, Mondays seem to be the day that some of these places will close down, especially like smaller ones. So it was like a Monday, I go to that one. Now I go to the second one and now I look up another one. I go to a third ramen place, closed again. I'm searching. I find a fourth one. At this point, I've walked in total probably an hour because it's like this one's 10 minutes away. This one's 15 minutes away. This one's 15 minutes away. And there's already a walk like from the subway over to the first place. So I don't know. I'm starving, whatever. I get to the fourth one. There's a sign on there and he's apologizing. I'm assuming it was a guy, maybe it was a girl, but the owner, the proprietor has a note up that I took a picture of. Like, so sorry. Like I needed some rest. I had to take a day off. And just as I'm reading that, and I'm reading it by, doing the Google Translate or whatever, as I'm reading that, a businessman walks up and I see him look at the sign and I go, ah. And then he starts walking away. Now I'm in desperation mode at this point, right? I'm like, I don't know where else to go. I walked by a couple of other restaurants, but when you start craving, especially ramen, man, that's just something, or like rice for me is something like if I'm craving rice, I just have to have rice. So the ramen, look, we're all in on the ramen. I already thought I had the mindset going down there or up there that I'm going to have the best ramen in Japan, right? That's what this guy's telling me. He's selling it hard and I'm buying it. Now I've been to 4 places. It's been an hour. It's like 12:30 now. I'm dying. So you know what I do? I just start following this guy. Like I'm some kind of like spy or something or stalker. So he leaves and I'm like, this guy's got to know where to eat, right? And he's probably on his lunch hour. So I just kind of start following this dude from a long distance and he starts walking to I don't know where. So again, now I'm in a completely unfamiliar part of Osaka following some random business guy that I just decided when I saw how upset he was that this place that we were trying to get to, this ramen joint was closed. I'm like, I'm just going to follow this guy. So I started following him and then we get to an area that's like, it's like a Chinatown, and it's just like a long strip. There's a lot of these interesting areas where it's sort of like a shopping or strip mall where there will be a roof over a street. So they put some protection from the weather so that people can just walk freely in there. And sometimes they don't allow cars in there, but it was crazy. Like there was areas in Seoul where I was at where, I was expecting it to kind of be blocked off, and then cars would come cruising through there, or these insane people on scooters in Seoul. And we will talk about that because these people are nuts. And it's just part of the culture there, though, because these guys deliver in 20 minutes or less. They're weaving through. I took some videos of this. We'll talk about that later. But I follow this guy to some Chinatown thing, and I'm like, no, man, this is not. I don't want Chinese food. He went into some dumpling shop, and I was like, all right, I'm frustrated. I'm hungry. My plane leaves because I'm flying to where am I going? I'm going to Seoul. I'm going to Seoul from Osaka in a few hours, like later that evening. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to go back towards the train station, and whatever ramen is there, I'm just having that ramen. And that ended up being this ramen here. And going back to like the solo travel thing that I was talking about, there's a line, people are sitting and waiting, to get into this joint. But because I was solo, I got one of those solo seats, and was able to find a spot real quick and then get that amazing deal for like 1,000 yen. Absolutely delicious ramen. The perfect ending, the perfect last meal in Japan. And then I think, just give me 1 second, and then we will finish on this little amazing joint that I stumbled on. It's not ramen, but it's shabu shabu. So this is, so I went to Japan for like 8 days. Then I went to Seoul for like 13 days, Hong Kong, Taiwan. And then I was supposed to go to Bangkok, but the weather was absolute trash. Just rain, rain, rain. And I didn't want to be in the rain. So I switched it up, went back to Japan. And one of the nights I was like, oh man, shabu shabu sounds good. And when I was in Shibuya, I posted that on one of the videos. I was in Shibuya, and they had shabu shabu for like one diner, like a bar seating. So, like I mentioned in the other video, like I want to be respectful of these places, especially smaller joints where they've got 6 or 8 tables and they're supposed to seat, 4, 6 people. I don't want to go in there and take up a whole table, especially during a busy evening. So first of all, trying to find this place was crazy because it was like up an elevator, like it was in what looked like an office building. Didn't make any sense to me. Like it was kind of a weird spot. And I actually searched around and thought I couldn't find it. And then eventually saw like these 2 gals like get in the elevator and go up this elevator that were not dressed to go to any kind of office. So I was like, well, again, follow the locals, right? Or what the local people are doing. So I go up, and then when I get in the elevator, I see, that there's on the buttons, they'll show you the names of the restaurants. So I go up there, and there's a sign. So I go upstairs and open the door, and there's 2 restaurants, and I turn to the right because I think that's the one that I want. And there's a sign up there that says last seating was at 9 p.m. It's like 9:05, right? I'm so bummed out because, again, you get a sort of food on your mind, at least I do. And, that's what I want to have. So I'm like, well, screw it. I mean, I don't know what this place is next door, but I'm going to go check that out. So I go over there, and it's actually the place that I was trying to find. This other joint was some sort of, like, not shabu shabu. What do they call that? Gyo. I'll have to look up the Japanese, but it's just like a grilled meat kind of place. A little bit, that gyokatsu. Oh man, I feel bad butchering that, but it's kind of a Korean barbecue, but the Japanese version of it. So they had a couple places in San Diego that I went to like that. But I finally get in there, right? And I think it's 5,000 yen for, so like $35. And I think it's just for, what they call a meal set there, which included like all of this beautiful, look at these meats, man. I mean, and then they had like beef tongue and a couple other things. And then all the sides were included. And then you could do like an all you can drink option too. Now it was early. It was 9:00. I was planning to go to Golden Guy and have some drinks later. So, I'm not delving into the crazy all you can drink, but just to let you know that these places exist. And when they were explaining to me how it worked, I realized, I can just keep getting meat. And I ate so much beef, so much Japanese beef, man. It was awesome. I got the meat sweats later. I don't even think I ate until like after lunch the next day, because they're so thin, but they're like so fatty and just so delicious. And then you're having like a really refreshing high beam. Like I was a highball. You're having some high beams. All right. I think that's the cue. It's time to maybe call episode 2 a wrap. Geo goes solo. I like the name. Let's keep cranking these out for you, because I want to tell you more than a 30-second or 1-minute blurb, which I posted online, because, that's kind of how you consume that content, right? And then, you can pop over to YouTube here and we'll talk about more of this stuff. And I already have some ideas and some inklings. I'm going to see if I can get a hold of some of those people I met in Japan, in Korea, etc., and see if we can kind of call them. Like, let's figure out something fun to do with that. But in the meantime, please travel safe, and we'll see you soon.